I have just received a response to a Freedom of Information request from the ABC, and you will not believe what Australia's taxpayer-funded broadcaster is hiding from you. Late last year, I was in Tel Aviv covering the historic hostage deal when I ran into notorious fake news peddler and ABC reporter Matt Doran, so I used the moment to confront him about his blatantly biased reporting.
I stand by my reporting, and I have told you that repeatedly.
I've given you two examples of complete and utter lies that you just told.
You are saying that they are lies. I stand by my reporting. If you have a concern, please write a formal complaint to the ABC. I am not talking to you any further.
Do you understand why people want to defund the ABC? Why should my taxpayer dollars go to you?
You are just trying to catch me out here. You are trying to make a scene. I am trying to do actual journalism. So please...
Actual journalism? Is that what it's called when you lie?
Please leave us alone.
Yeah. After that video went viral for being awesome, it was picked up by Chris Kenny at Sky News Australia.
The ABC really is a disgrace, which is why Rebel News host Avi Yemini couldn't resist hitting up the ABC's Jerusalem reporter in Hostages Square yesterday.
You're going to finally report Hamas as terrorists? Do you hold your head in shame for the way that you reported in the last 2 years? Much of the anti-Semitic hate in Australia has to do solely on your reporting. How does it feel?
And for daring to run that, the ABC News director sent a letter complaining to the Sky News presenters' bosses.
He sent it to Michael Miller, the executive chair of News Corp Australasia, copying in the CEO of Sky News, Paul Whittaker, and editor-in-chief of The Australian, Michelle Gunn. The letter says that my column in last weekend's Australian and an editorial on this program last week focusing on ABC correspondent Matthew Doran in the Middle East were, quote, a disgrace. Yeah, it was Rebel News Livewire Avi Yemini who decided to pursue Doran for some answers. And I shared that with you. It was publicly available, it was newsworthy, and it was illuminating. But in this complaint from the ABC News boss, we got high dudgeon. Stephen said that for me, the Oz and Sky News to publicly support what they called the persistent harassment and abuse of Doran in Tel Aviv and to share the video to a wider audience is a low point. A low point. Chasing someone with a camera and asking questions. Care to tell us how often the ABC has done that?
They do it all the time. And to be fair, confronting people and asking tough questions is literally journalism. The problem is the ABC only seems to support it when it's aimed at their political opponents, which is why they tried to have Chris Kenny cancelled simply for daring to air someone else turning cameras back on them.
The purpose of the letter was to pressure Chris Kenny's multiple bosses into forcing him to say sorry for scrutinising the ABC's Middle Eastern coverage. Now, think about that for a second. It's quite a horrible thing to do to someone. If you don't like their opinion piece, call their boss and ask their boss to take action. Well, thankfully, we have thick skin in this game and we will not be intimidated by the likes of Stevens and his error-ridden letter.
The first question is what on earth I would apologise for? For exposing the ABC's systemic bias? For sharing facts and daring to show an ABC reporter refusing to answer tough questions? For demonstrating that taxpayers' money is being misused? Instead of paying for fair and balanced news, it's funding biased and selective reporting? I won't apologise for doing my job, even if part of that job is to expose how badly Justin Stevens does his job.
And what you're about to learn is just how badly Justin Stevens does his job. And trust me, it's even worse than Chris described in his reporting. Because after the ABC failed to bully Chris Kenny's bosses directly, they appear to have recruited help from their far-left allies in the media to pile even more pressure onto Sky News. One of those allies was The Guardian's Amanda Mead, who, by the way, looks absolutely nothing like the profile picture they use on their website. And in case you're wondering, this is what she actually looks like. But I guess when you work in fake news, even the profile pictures are going to be misleading. Anyways, in her article attacking Chris Kenny, Amanda openly admitted that she had contacted the Australian's editor-in-chief, Michelle Gunn, to pressure the paper over allowing my newsworthy video on air. She wrote, "We asked the Australian's editor-in-chief, Michelle Gunn, why the Australian would platform Yemini's antics when he has criminal convictions. Now, when I saw that line, alarm bells went off, not just because of the nonsense she went on to write, but because it made me wonder, was this really just a coincidence, or were ABC executives actually coordinating with The Guardian behind the scenes to try get Chris Kenny punished for daring to challenge them? So I filed an FOI request, and when the documents came back, surprise, surprise, they confirmed exactly what I suspected. The ABC and The Guardian were communicating about the story behind the scenes. In one exchange, Amanda Mead told ABC executives she was conflicted because she didn't want to give me any airtime. And then Sally Jackson, ABC's deputy head of communications, agreed. But eventually they decided the smear piece needed to run anyway because Amanda claimed that my reporting was too shocking that Duran looked vulnerable in the face of the harassment. That's right. Apparently journalism is now considered harassment when it's directed at left-wing media activists instead of conservatives. Let that sink in. But the most revealing part wasn't even what they released. It was what they hid. Multiple communications from the same Justin Stevens who sent that infamous letter were heavily redacted. One email he sent to Sally Jackson, Mark Tapley, and even ABC boss Hugh Marks had everything Justin Stevens wrote blacked out, with a separate email he sent only to Mark Tapley entirely redacted. And the excuse they gave for blacking everything out? I quote, "If the information was publicly disclosed under FOI, employees could be exposed to unwarranted public criticism or targeted online abuse, including cyberbullying." Think about that for a second. This is the ABC, a taxpayer-funded broadcaster that receives over $1.3 billion a year and is legally supposed to operate transparently in the public interest. Yet now they're hiding what senior executives said behind closed doors, while ironically using junior staff as human shields to justify the secrecy. I guess Matt Duran taught them something from Gaza after all. But seriously, don't worry. I'm not giving up. I already lodged an internal appeal offering for the junior staff names to be redacted if that's what they're really worried about, because as you know, we're not interested in random low-level journalists. We want to know exactly what Justin Stevens said, whether it breached ABC editorial standards or even crossed legal lines, including potential defamation. And one way or another, we're going to get those answers. I'm coming at this from every angle. In fact, I've already escalated the matter to the Ombudsman, and if I have to, I'll take this all the way to the courts. Because Australians deserve to know what the taxpayer-funded media executives are saying and doing behind closed doors. Understand what happened here. The ABC was confronted with legitimate questions about journalistic conduct, questions millions of Australians have. And instead of just answering them honestly, they went into full damage control, from targeting Chris Kenny to coordinating with The Guardian to covering up internal communications once they got caught. And here's the truly incredible part. The ABC presents itself as a champion of transparency. They're part of Australia's so-called Right to Know coalition, constantly demanding openness and accountability from governments and institutions. But apparently, that standard only applies to everyone else. They want the right to know, they just don't want you to have the right when it comes to them. Well, bad luck. Because one way or another, we're going to force transparency here. If you think the taxpayer-funded organisation should be held accountable, make sure to like, comment and share this far and wide, because I get the feeling this won't be on ABC News tonight. Then head to defundabc.com or scan the QR code on your screen right now to demand an end to this national rort. Defundabc.com or scan the QR code right now.